Greetings, brave souls. Do you dare to discover the dark unknown? I am your haunted host, Phantom Spectres, and you stumbled upon the Phantom Files, where shadows speak and legends awaken. Here I unravel the darkest secrets and mysteries of the macabre, taking a page from my ancient library, covering topics that will haunt your dreams and mysteries that will keep you up at night. Join me in the shadows and let's embrace and dive into the darkness together with the Phantom Files. On the outskirts of a small, quiet New England town, nestled in the shadows of overgrown woods, there exists a legend, one that refuses to fade with the passing of time. The story has been passed down in whispers, exchanged between hushed voices in corners of dimly lit rooms, yet its chilling details remain as vivid as the night it first unfolded. It is the tale of the Dover demon, a creature so strange, so otherworldly, that even now, decades later, the air still feels thick with its presence. The year was 1977 when the first encounter took place. The night, as usual, was moonless, casting an eerie blanket of darkness over the small town of Dover, Massachusetts. A group of teenagers, driving along the winding country roads that twisted through the woods, would become the first to lay eyes on what they would later describe as something not quite right, something not quite human. It began as a blur, a flicker of motion along the side of the road. A small figure, no taller than a child, darted across the headlights of their car, its limbs unnaturally elongated. The teens slammed on the brakes, staring wide-eyed at what they had just seen. But when they glanced into the rearview mirror to catch a second glimpse, there was nothing. The road was empty. They were left in stunned silence, each one wondering if they had imagined it. The next encounter occurred just hours later. Two more teenagers, walking along a path near the town's edge, also caught sight of the strange creature. This time, the figure was even more unnerving. A thin, gaunt form with a bald head, glowing eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. Its limbs were spindly and too long for any human, and its movements were quick, almost jerky, as it skittered across the ground with an unsettling speed. The teenagers froze, unable to speak or move, as the thing watched them. Then, just as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished into the woods, leaving behind only the faint rustle of leaves. By the time morning came, the whispers were already spreading. The town was alive with the news of strange sightings, each one describing a figure that seemed to defy logic and reason. Some said the creature was an alien visitor. Others whispered that it was an omen, a spirit of the woods, or something far darker, something ancient and forgotten. As the weeks passed, the sightings grew more frequent, though the creature always seemed to vanish before anyone could get a clear look. It became a fixture in local conversation. Before all the talk, no one could agree on what it truly was. Its description was always the same: a small, thin figure with an oversized head, glowing eyes that shone like embers in the dark, and hands that seemed too long, too delicate, for anything living. Some said it could move with a speed that was impossible, its tiny form disappearing into the shadows before anyone could react. One particular night, two teenagers found themselves in the woods near the infamous Dover demon sighting spot. They had heard the stories, of course, but they dismissed them as local superstition. That was until they saw it, a silhouette darting between the trees, its movements like lightning, faster than anything they had ever seen. One of the teens, braver than the other, shouted into the darkness, calling for the creature to show itself. The figure stepped into view, its glowing eyes locking onto the boy with an intensity that made his heart race. It was a moment that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He described the creature's eyes as empty, but filled with something else, something unfathomable, something cold. The creature tilted its head slightly, as if studying him, before it vanished into the night, leaving the two teens paralyzed with fear. Neither spoke for the entire walk back to town, the air around them thick with the tension of what they had just witnessed. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the sightings stopped. For years, there were no further reports. The town of Dover returned to its quiet, peaceful existence. But even today, when the wind rustles through the trees or the moon hangs low in the sky, there are those who say that the creature still lurks in the shadows. Some claim to have seen it late at night, watching from the tree line, its glowing eyes reflecting the light of passing cars. Others say the creature is more than just a ghostly apparition, that it is something else entirely, an ancient being, part of the woods, born from a place outside of time. No one knows for sure what the Dover demon is. Was it an alien, an experiment gone wrong, or something older, something that has always existed in the hidden corners of the world? Perhaps it was a warning, a message for those who dare to venture too far from the beaten path. Or maybe, just maybe, it is a reminder that there are things in this world that we cannot fully understand, creatures that move in the dark spaces between the known and the unknown. Whatever it is, the Dover demon still lives on in the hearts and minds of those who were there that night. And for those brave enough to venture into the woods, in the quiet moments when the world seems to hold its breath, there is always the question, what if it's still out there? They say it only takes a single moment, a flicker of movement in the corner of your eye, to see the creature once again. And when you do, you'll know that the woods are never truly empty. Something is always watching. For years after the sightings of the Dover demon stopped, the town of Dover seemed to fall into a quiet, almost eerie peace. The roads that twisted through the forests no longer carried the same sense of foreboding. The woods seemed as safe as any other patch of earth. Yet there were still those who couldn't shake the lingering feeling that something, someone, was watching from the shadows. The legend of the Dover demon never really disappeared. It merely retreated, settling deep into the corners of local folklore. But every so often, something would stir, a flicker of memory, a strange occurrence, and the whispers would start once more. The most recent of these oddities took place not long ago, in the dead of winter when the trees were bare and the ground was frozen solid. A group of college students, drawn to the legend by their curiosity, decided to explore the woods on a frigid night. Armed with little more than flashlights and their own bravado, they set out on foot, eager to prove that the tales of a glowing-eyed creature were nothing but a figment of local imagination. They started in the clearing near the old stone bridge, where the sightings were most frequent. The wind howled through the skeletal branches, and the air hung heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. The town was miles away, and the only sound was the crunch of their boots on the frozen ground. At first, there was nothing. They laughed and joked, half expecting to find nothing at all, only dark trees and empty space. But as the night deepened, they began to feel the unsettling weight of the silence. It was too quiet, no rustling leaves, no nocturnal creatures stirring, just an unnerving stillness that seemed to press in from all sides. That's when they saw it. A flash of motion, too quick to catch at first, and then another. Something, or someone, darting between the trees. They froze, their breath caught in their throats. At first, they thought it might be a trick of the light, but then, as their eyes adjusted, they saw it more clearly. A small figure, no taller than a child, moving in ways that defied logic, its limbs stretching and jerking in unnatural angles, the glowing eyes fixed firmly on them. One of the students, a young woman named Rachel, gasped and pointed. "There, look," her voice cracked, and for a moment, the group just stood there, paralyzed, unable to look away. The creature, its features too hazy to discern clearly, moved again, vanishing into the darkness like a shadow swallowed by the night. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, it was gone. The students' initial shock turned to frantic panic. They turned and ran, the darkness now feeling alive around them, the trees whispering and groaning under the weight of the cold. But no matter how fast they ran, no matter how far they pushed themselves, they couldn't escape the feeling that they weren't alone. Eyes, unseen but felt, tracked their every step. The sound of something small and quick, footsteps, perhaps, or claws scraping against bark, followed them, but when they looked behind, the woods were empty. The only thing they could hear was their own ragged breathing. As they finally reached the edge of the forest and burst out onto the road, the tension began to loosen. The cold air seemed to bite at their skin, but they were safe, or so they thought. They huddled together in the warmth of their car, their hands trembling as they fumbled with the keys. It was only when they started the engine, the headlights casting long shadows onto the snow-covered road, that they saw it again. The figure. It was standing just at the edge of the trees, watching them, its eyes gleaming faintly like twin embers. This time, they could see it more clearly, its small, hairless head, its body too thin, its hands too long. It did not move, did not blink, but simply stood there, its gaze fixed on the car, as though waiting. And then, just as quickly as it had appeared, it was gone. Disappeared into the void of the forest, leaving the students shaking in disbelief. They never spoke of that night again, not to each other, not to anyone else. But the legend had returned, and with it, a new layer of mystery. What was the Dover demon? Was it a ghost, a creature from another world, or something else entirely? Had it always been there, watching and waiting, or was it merely drawn to the fear and curiosity of those who dared to seek it out? No one could say for certain, and as time passed, the stories grew more fractured, more vague. But there is something else, something that has always clung to the legend, like the roots of the trees that spread deep into the earth. There are rumors, whispers, really, that suggest the creature is not some alien, nor some ancient spirit, but something far more unsettling. Some say it's a reflection of something darker within the human soul. That the Dover demon is not an external force, but a mirror, showing us the part of ourselves we try to bury. The woods, some claim, are alive with memories, memories that refuse to fade, memories of things better left forgotten. The creature might be a manifestation of these forgotten things, an entity that thrives on the fear and curiosity of those who dare to wander too far from the safety of the known. A creature that only appears when it senses something missing in those who seek it. And maybe that's the most unsettling part of all. What if the Dover demon is not just a thing out there in the woods, waiting to be seen? What if it's already inside us? What if it has always been? And in the stillness of the woods, it waits, watching, always waiting, until the moment when we are ready to look into the dark corners of ourselves, and see it staring back. This has been the Phantom Files, and until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and always question what is lurking in the shadows.